You're listening to the REI Marketing Nerds Podcast, the leading resource for real estate investors who want to dominate their market online. Dan Barrett is the founder of AdWords Nerds, a high-tech digital agency focusing exclusively on helping real estate investors like you get more leads and deals online, outsmart your competition, and live a freer, more awesome life. And now, your host, Dan Barrett.
All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's REI Marketing Nerds podcast. As always, this is Daniel Barrett here from AdWordsNerds.com. How are you? Hope you are having an awesome day, an awesome week, an awesome month, an awesome year. I hope everything is going your way. This week, we've got a really fascinating interview with Jesse Trujillo. Now, Jesse is from San Diego FastCashOffers.com. You may know him by his company name, AJX. And he is out in San Diego doing a really amazing thing. He has scaled his real estate investing business in the San Diego market, which is very competitive, with basically no marketing budget. And he has done that pretty much entirely off of the strength of his personal relationships with vendors, with wholesalers, with realtors. He's done an incredible job of this. And you'll hear me say this in the interview, but relationships are an incredibly powerful competitive advantage that is very hard to reproduce. So if you can put a little bit of time and thought into this, it can be this real accelerant to your business. And just to see what Jesse has done, going from basically 0 to 80 flips this year in one of the more competitive markets in the United States, it's really inspirational. And I really hope you're going to get a ton of value. So without any further ado, let's get into my conversation with Jesse Trujillo. All right. Hello, everybody. It's Daniel Barrett here, and I am with Jesse Trujillo. He is here from San Diego FastCashOffers.com. They are real estate investors. They are out in the San Diego area, really focusing on sort of entry-level home buyers. So super happy to have Jesse on the show. Jesse, what's up, man? How are you?
Hey, good about yourself. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, I am. I'm very happy to have you. We've got a couple different things I want to dig into. We were kind of talking before the show started, some really interesting stuff, and you guys are absolutely killing it in a really difficult market. I think you said you're doing about 80 flips this year, which is massive. Let's kind of start at the beginning, though. How did you get into real estate investing? Like, what was your into this kind of world we both live in?
Yeah, well, of all things, actually, I never knew anything about real estate, and I was my end goal was to be a doctor. So I was actually studying at UCSD, and my goal was, being pre-med. And long story short, while I'm going to college, my sister graduated herself from college from San Diego State and became a teacher. And she told me she was moving out. She's graduating, she's moving out of our parents' house, and she's gonna get an apartment now. And I just threw out, "Oh, you should buy something, not rent." Without really know, I've always heard that, but never knew what that was.
Yeah.
So she's like, "Oh, I wouldn't even know where to start. My credit's all, I got a bunch of credit cards from San Diego State, racked up my credit." And I said, "Well, hey, if I can figure out how to, fix your credit, would you be interested?" And she's like, "Yeah, go for it. Try it out." So I kind of studied how to fix credit a little bit, worked on it on the side, just, as a hobby, and got her credit, up to a good score, and just started talking to a couple lenders. One lender kind of took me under a wing and just kind of let me understand how loans work and how to get approved. So we got her approved. Super excited. We found her a condo by our parents' house, a 3-bedroom condo that at the end of the day, after she would have to rent 2 rooms, but she'd be paying like $200, in rent,
Wow.
for her mortgage. So she went for it. We got it accepted. We closed. I think I was more excited than she was. And it's all she wrote. When it closed, it was like I don't know how to explain it. It was like the best hobby ever, for me was a rush. And so after that, I just told her, "Hey, if I could find you another one, would you be interested?" So what happened was, a couple months down the line, I found her, it was back in 99. It was, found her one of the last FHA foreclosures back in those days here in San Diego, and found her a little studio in a good place in Chula Vista over here in San Diego. And she ended up qualifying. We got it, rented it out. Was doing great. By the time I knew it, I was buying one for her every couple months. So after a while, she got, I think it was like 8 to 10 rentals But what happened is, being the brother that kind of got her into it, I was a property manager. So I got into property management, whether I liked it or not, while I'm going to school. And it just became too much. It became too much. And I told my sister, hey, either you get a property management company or you sell them, and she just pretty much said, you know what, Jesse, just go ahead and sell them all. So what that did is, so we started selling them. The market had gone up. I saw something that even made it more interesting to me is I saw the profits she was making as we were selling these properties after she held them for a while. And I was like, wow, there's something here. That's something that I like. It's not only was it a hobby, but now it's something that could produce money. And so it opened my mind to a whole different world. Then after we sold all those, I did my own first one. As I'm going to school, I bought a little studio as well. And what I did was I literally bought it, and I was there painting at night with one book in one hand and a paintbrush in the other, changing light sockets and getting electrocuted a little bit, not knowing what I was doing. But anyways, I flipped that first one. Back in those days, I made $5,000, I remember, was my profit. But for me, back in those days, as a starving student, $5,000 for something that I loved was huge. And really, that's all it took. So, back then I started doing little by little. I did one here, one there, and did some kind of just jointly with family. And we liked it. We liked it a lot. And as I was still going to school, I actually worked at a laboratory, UCSD Medical Center, and I worked my way up. And so of all things, funny people always ask me, what did you used to do before? So I was actually a head surgeon for this laboratory, and then working with a lot of perinatal doctors that are very well known actually here in San Diego now. And back then, just they knew what I was doing. And I heard it from a couple. They said on different occasions, they said, hey, Jesse, man, if I could do what you're doing right now with flipping these properties, I would love to have done that instead of becoming a doctor. And I heard it from 2 or 3 of them on different occasions, from just separate conversations in different ways. And it really stayed with me because they said it's not what it used to be anymore. Yes, it's about helping people, but so much insurance is involved, so much bureaucracies. It's not as easy as you'd want it to be. And it really just stuck with me because that was my end goal, to be a doctor and help people. But we all know, right? Being a doctor, you never stop studying. School is never ending in something like that. And, you could be there late at nights or all night, and, depending on the type of doctor you are. And so it just kind of really stayed with me for a while. And it kind of, I made the decision. I left it in 2006. Like in 2006, I left the laboratory manager job, and I just went for it on my own and just started flipping houses. I said, I'm going to go for it. So I left the school. I left the laboratory, started flipping houses. Then good old 2008 came around. And back then I was doing, for me, high-end homes in the 600s-700s. And the market crashed and took everything away from me. I literally lost everything I had, lost everything and more, from it. But the only thing I learned from it is you got to, I had to make a decision. I told my wife at the time, I said, hey, either I go back to school and, go back and just be a doctor, or I keep trying to see, let's see where the dust settles after this whole, recession and with the market crashing and us being broke. We had nowhere else to go except for up. So I kind of told her, hey, let's, she kind of just said, you know what, do whatever your heart says. And she trusted me. And I said, okay, well, I'm going to stick with it. And didn't do anything for a year or two. In 2009, I did one property, and it made, I think, like $60,000. And with that $60,000, I did 20 flips in 2010. And pretty much all by myself, with a little bit of my dad's help, kind of helped me out with some of these properties. And then 2011, I brought my cousin aboard, name's Miguel. And since then, we've been growing just, 20, 30 properties a year. And then that's kind of where we're at now. But really what's changed in the last couple of years here, I started really kind of studying and listening to some of these, people that have been doing it for a while and seeing how they have the teams in place. And I just never thought of it, the scary part of hiring people, the scary thought of, you're going to be in charge of making sure that you have money for them each month and, to pay their salary. It was a scary idea, but it was the best thing I could have ever done. In about 2016, I just started hiring, someone, a project manager, so someone I knew. She was actually our stager, but she yelled at our contractor. So I liked it. So I kind of moved her into that position. And so she took, so what that did, it opened up the door that it took something that was taking time off of me to go check on these projects to focus on what's really important. And what's really important is bringing in more deals, finding cheaper money, being on things that is going to bring us money at the end of the day, not the little things of, dealing with the contractor here, the contractor there, like the little things. Then we also brought someone else on board that runs numbers for us. That would also take time away from us. And so what it did, little by little, now there's 11 of us. So what it ended up happening is I just noticed how really delegating things and putting it into kind of a sort of system and having everyone know their roles. And me and Miguel now, the one who joined me in 2011, we're kind of on the top end where we're running the show and, focusing on the things that are going to make us money and making maybe the important decisions. And that's what's taken us to the next level to do 80 properties a year. If you would have asked me and Miguel in 2010, hey, can you picture doing 80 properties a year? We'd be like, heck no, there's no way. We'd be pulling our hair out. It wasn't even an idea, So now to look back at those days and be like, wow, too bad I didn't really put a system in place from day one, because I probably would have been doing a lot more volume, from day one than where I am, than where I was. But it's you can't turn back time, and we're happy where we're at. And it's the important part is about learning things that you didn't know about. And like I said, I think that's something important that as listeners hear this is really, take that little step and start passing on some of the work to other people. Hire someone, hire an assistant. You'll see the difference right away.
Yeah. And I think it's like, it's so easy to look back and say, oh, if only we had known this then. But of course, you had to go through that process to learn the things that you now know. You know what I mean? It's kind of hard to turn it back that way. But I think that story is really amazing, man. I love how you kind of like fell into real estate investing by accident and like it ended up kind of like having someone else, like getting someone else to do it with you. And I just love that whole story. I think that's really amazing. And then of course, like going through losing everything, having to rebuild everything. It's really amazing. Tell me a little bit about, we were talking before we started the kind of like recording, we were talking a little bit about how your kind of focus is on these areas where, you've got the early level home buyers or first time home buyers or sort of entry level home buyers, I should say, right? So what was the decision making process to make that your focus? Was that something that kind of just emerged organically, or was that like a strategic decision? How did you make the decision to get into that part of the market specifically?
So I think, well, if you remember, when the market crashed, I was doing $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 homes. And those were the first ones to go. When the market crashed, we were literally in escrow, about to close. And I got a call from escrow and they said, hey, Jesse, we're not closing today. And I thought, oh, okay, we're closing tomorrow. No, they're like, we're not closing ever. The bank is gone.
Ever.
Yeah. No, it was crazy, and I was like, what? And it was like unheard of. And I even didn't believe her. Like, what is she talking about? That doesn't even make any sense. But now we look back, we all understand it. But at that moment, I had no clue what she was talking about. And what happened was all these high-end homes, you got to remember, you got a higher loan amount. So, we all had, loans on the properties, private loans, and the interest on it, you still got to pay it. And back then, if I knew what I knew now, I wasn't ready just to let everything foreclose. I just, was trying to keep everything going. But we were paying 50 to 60,000 in mortgages a month, and I kept it going for a very long time. But all that really did was leave me broke at the end of the day. And I ended up short selling and foreclosing on all of them, So what that did to me when I restarted, I told myself, okay, what's a safer way to do this in case something else happens in the future, right? Could I have refinanced those and rented them? Yes, but the rents wouldn't have paid anywhere close to what the mortgages were. So it really stuck in my mind of, okay, so when you start up again, you're going to start on the bottom. You're going to start with these properties that we know are affordable, that there's a lot more buyers for, that are really like, especially here in San Diego, we got such a military presence with the Marines and the Navy. There's a lot of VA home buyers that come in and they just want something entry level while they're here in town and working in town. So it was something that really just kind of stood out with me. And I just thought my investors are my lifeline. I have investors that have been with me since many, many years. And if it weren't for them, I wouldn't be where we're at. And their trust in me is huge, so much, almost too much trust, because I just feel like, man, like they just, hey, Jesse, whatever you need, here it is. And I was like, oh, we don't you even want to hear about the property? And they're like, nah, it's okay. We trust you, and that's very important to me. So knowing that we're going into the entry level field where there's more buyers, or God forbid something happens and we got to refinance the property and keep it as a rental, maybe it'll, pay itself. Maybe it'll be a little bit of loss, but it won't be nothing crazy. And I can always get my investors' money back to them, because I've always said this, people that know, I've always said this. I can lend, if you were my investor and I lent in, and I made you money on 20, 30, 40 deals, you're going to love me for it. But that one deal that goes south that you lose on, that's the one you're going to remember. You're not going to remember the 20, 30, 40 deals I made you money on. It's going to be that one that I didn't pay you back, that, that you lost money on. You're going to, sadly, that's just human nature. You're going to remember that one more than anything else. It's going to hurt the most. So I've always told my team, it doesn't matter if we win or doing 80 properties a deal, we don't win on all of them. We lose on, there's a slight, numbers that we sometimes lose on. And when it happens, I don't care. I always pay back my investors, because like I said, it's just part of the game. And it's very important to know that, that you just have to keep that in mind, that your relationships sometimes you got to keep those intact, because, if you pay them back, and that's what's taking us to the next level, that they know they'll lend to me, and they just know Jesse's going to do his best to pay us back and really have us in mind, when he's flipping these properties.
Want to find motivated seller leads online, but don't know where to start? Download our free 2019 Motivated Seller Keyword Report today. AdWords nerds have spent over $5 million this year researching the most profitable keywords for finding motivated seller leads. And you can grab these exact keywords when you download our report at www.adwordsnerds.com/keywords.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit, because, one of the things you said to me earlier was, you guys have grown this business, you're very successful in a very competitive market. So you really found yourselves a profitable niche. You're doing really well. One of the things you said to me was you've barely had a marketing budget that entire time, because most of the business you get through these relationships that you form with people in your market. So can you kind of talk a little bit about that? When you say that, what are you talking about specifically, and kind of how is that structured? How did you go about building those relationships?
Sure. Yeah. So, it's really just little by little, especially in the beginning. It was in the beginning kind of started with agents. When I'd go there and meet up with them at the properties, and they'd meet me, and I really didn't have a track record, to be honest. It was just kind of a little bit of me. I've done a couple here and there, but didn't have anything behind me that was just super impressive. And it's just really talking to them and just being upfront with them. Not just, what I've learned is very important is you really just be upfront, be open. And I would tell them, hey, look, this is one of my first flips I've done, in a while, but I'm going to close it for you. And here's my lender, and I can give you the information. You could talk to them, and really it's just building that rapport with them. Like anything else. And I think they respected the fact that I would tell them, be honest with them, and not say, oh yeah, I'm going to close this in 10 days and not go through with it, and so little by little, as we started going, I saw the importance of that. And as we dealt with these agents, I think they've always come back and they said, Jesse, I'm going with you because you do what you say, and that's really been something that I pass on to my team, is hey guys, whatever we say, we do, and there's an example. There's an example actually this year that we bought a property from an agent we know that's sent us several deals. And he had other investors, and he just wanted to go with us because he knew that, we were going to close it. To be honest, we were off on our numbers. We offered way too much. And I remember our team, we had our meeting, we looked at it, and I just looked at him and he said, we're going to close it. We probably won't make any money on this. We might even lose some money on this, but our relationship with this agent is so important, and our word, is everything, that we're just going to close it and cross our fingers. Maybe we'll make money, maybe we won't, but there's a good chance we're probably not. But it's just part of the game, because relationships are so important that once you burn yourself with them once, it's kind of the same thing as investors. You burn yourself with one agent one day on one deal, and they're probably not going to want to give you another deal anytime soon. They're going to go to the other investors. You got to remember, it's so competitive, especially here in San Diego. There's so many investors that they got enough to choose from. So it's just takes that one deal that you break your promise, or do something that they didn't like or play games, that they won't even ever, think of you for any other future deals ever in your whole career. So that's how we just kind of grew it. And little by little, it said with agents, and same thing with wholesalers. With wholesalers, we got a lot of deals from wholesalers, and there's actually quite a bit of wholesalers here in San Diego that we know that sometimes they don't even give it to, they don't even blast it out anymore. They just said, I'd rather just work with you, Jesse, because you're just going to do what you say, and you try to, you're upfront, and you don't try to, you try to go aggressive on your numbers and make it a win-win for everyone. And so they respect that, and that's what I think has got us to that point.
Yeah, it's interesting to think about, anybody on any side of a real estate transaction is taking on a pretty big amount of risk, right? You have all the risk that's just inherent in real estate and what the market's doing. And, are you going to, learn the house is built on some kind of like ancient burial ground or whatever, right? There's all these things that can happen. And then you have the relational part of the risk, which is all the other people that are involved in that transaction. If they don't do their job or they don't do what they're going to say, that can come back to hurt you. Right? Like you didn't disclose this, you didn't, you couldn't, you didn't actually, have the things as you said you're going to have, or the money you said you're going to have, or whatever it is. So it makes a lot of sense that like over time, if you can show people like, hey, like when you enter into a relationship with me, that actually decreases your overall amount of risk because you can take me at my word. That's a very powerful incentive, even if you're not maybe offering purely like numerically the highest offer in any given moment. People know they're taking on less risk. That's could be a much better deal. It strikes me, reminds me, I think it's a Charlie Munger quote where he says, a reputation takes a lifetime to build, but it only takes a moment to waste.
Right.
And it seems like you've done a really good job of kind of like forming those relationships and building that trust over time. That's awesome. That's really a huge thing. So what is next for you guys? Like, what do it's wild, man. Like you've been through this whole up and down scenario that a lot of investors have been through, right? And like you've come out the other side, you're more successful than you ever thought you were going to be. So what is next for you? Like, is it, you want to keep it where it's at and, keep this as like a lifestyle thing? Do you want to grow it and have like a big team? Do you want to go national? Like what's your kind of ideal scenario for your company?
Well, it's funny you say that because that's where we're at right now. This year, we made the decision, I told the team that my goal for next year is 200 properties. So to get there, that means we're going full force. And we have to, what you have to do there is one, up your game of what we're doing right now. But the other thing is to be realistic, to be able to get there, I need to have more avenues of acquisitions. So what I'm doing now is I'm bringing in, obviously with your guys' assistance, the Google AdWords, SEO. I'm also doing mailers. So now I'm getting into the marketing side. That's something new for us and that we've been dabbling in for the last couple months. And now we're saying 2020 is our year and we're going to go all out and have people that help us and let's build that side. So we're actually been building a team. I've just kind of hired an acquisitions manager. We're literally about to hire a lead manager and we finally got the phone ringing now. So, which is great. And we got leads coming in. So it's something new for us. Because we would never really do that. I mean, we'd be buying from wholesalers. We wouldn't really be dealing with the sellers directly. So it is something very different for us, but we're excited. It's in the same realm because it's going to help us get more properties. It's a different way of getting acquisitions. But once we get it, it's the same thing that we're doing now. Because once we get the property, lock it up, 9 times out of 10, I think we're probably going to flip it. We might wholesale a couple, but there's definitely, it goes right back into our set system that we're going to flip it. So it's just another means of acquisition. So it's very exciting to see what's going to happen and exciting. We know that doing this direct marketing side, it doesn't happen overnight. It's not like putting an offer in today and an answer tomorrow. It's something, you got to nurture these leads. It's going to take a while. So it's for someone that's a little impatient like I am, it's definitely practicing my patience and knowing that, it takes time and you're going to build it. And, you would know better than most of what, what it takes. It's not an overnight deal. It's something that you have to kind of nurture and be patient and get it to a point where it's a machine where then, maybe 6 to 8 months down the line, I know then we have that steady flow of leads coming in that you've been working. Some are going to be quick, some are going to be slow. But if you have that steady flow from 6 months ago, I mean, you're going to have leads every month. It's not going to be a problem. So it's really getting to that point and using the systems that I see others use, and let's give it a shot. So that's kind of where we're going. That's where we're heading, and we're growing the team, and we're trying to get to that 200 mark.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think, you're exactly right, man. Even when you get it set up, there's always something that's going to need work. So, I think it's one of those things where you either dedicate the time and effort to it yourself, or you, like you said, like you work with someone, you bring people on the team that can help you with that stuff. It's, all I do is ads all day, basically. Like all I do is marketing, but I'm still going to end up paying somebody to do my own ads because I'm like, I just can't handle it. You know what I mean? Like I can't handle that and everything else. So, I think you guys are so uniquely positioned too, because you have those relationships. So leveraging those relationships in some way where even if it's like, hey, like you link to my website, I'll link to your website, or like, hey, like doing something like this podcast, right? Or, doing interviews on your website with people from your market and kind of like building their visibility. When you do what you've done, which is build this strong network of local relationships, that's a huge competitive advantage that other investors almost never put the time into. And I think you guys have just done an amazing job. Everyone who's listening to this podcast, I really highly suggest you go and check Jesse's website out. So you can check out his website. It's SanDiegoFastCashOffers.com. Go look them up. They've done a fantastic job of kind of setting this stuff up. And like I said, you can kind of ask around his local market. Everybody that works with them, they have such a high opinion of them. And again, that's an incredible competitive advantage that's almost impossible to copy. So Jesse, I think you guys are crushing it. And I'm just super happy that you came on the show. Super happy to have the chance to work with you. And I just want to say thank you for sharing your story with our audience. It was awesome.
Yeah, of course. No, thank you very much for having me on here. We appreciate it.
Thanks for checking out my conversation this week with Jesse Trujillo from SanDiegoFastCashOffers.com. As always, if you want the show notes, and I'm going to link to a couple of Jesse's websites as well as his Facebook page, if you want to get in touch with him, you can find the show notes for this episode and all our other episodes at AdWordsNerds.com/podcast. And look, if you are not a member of our free Facebook group, what are you doing? What are you doing? It's the best group there is on the internet for real estate investors. We put trainings in there. I'm live in there every single day doing, Q&A every week. It's an amazing community. And you can get to that place by going to AdWordsNerds.com/group. That's AdWordsNerds.com/group. You'll be forwarded to the REI Marketing Nerds Facebook group. Really amazing people in there and tons of free value and education for real estate investors that want to do more leads and deals online. I am stumbling all over myself today. It is time for me to cut this short. So I will see you guys next week. Hope you're having an awesome time. This is Daniel Barrett signing off.
This is the podcastfactory.com.